It was a crisp autumn afternoon when Angela Jackson, a determined and resilient woman in her early 30s, walked into the bustling downtown branch of the renowned restaurant chain, Sunshine Grill. Angela, who worked multiple jobs to make ends meet, had been saving up to treat herself to a special meal after months of hard work. Today was the day she decided to indulge in a moment of respite from her daily struggles. The restaurant was crowded with patrons enjoying their meals, and the aroma of freshly cooked food wafted through the air, mingling with the sounds of clinking cutlery and lively conversations. Angela, wearing her best dress, a modest but well-kept outfit, approached the hostess stand with a hopeful smile. She was eager to enjoy the popular dishes she had heard so much about. However, as she stood in line, she couldn't help but notice the disapproving glances and whispers from some of the diners and staff. When it was her turn, the hostess, a young woman with a name tag that read Jessica, looked her up and down with a raised eyebrow. Her expression quickly shifted from neutral to disdainful. "Can I help you?" Jessica asked, her tone cold and dismissive. Angela, taken aback by the hostility, nonetheless maintained her composure. "Yes, I'd like a table for one, please," she replied politely. Jessica's eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry, but we don't have any tables available right now." Angela glanced around the restaurant, noticing several empty tables. Confused, she pointed to one near the window. "What about that one? It looks free." The hostess's lips curled into a sneer. "That table is reserved. I'm afraid you'll have to leave." Realizing what was happening, Angela felt a mix of humiliation and anger rising within her. She knew she was being judged not just by her appearance, but by her skin color. Trying to keep her voice steady, she said, "I see. I'll just wait then, if that's okay." Jessica crossed her arms, clearly irritated. "No, you can't wait here. We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone." Angela felt a lump form in her throat as she realized she was being denied service outright. The surrounding diners, who had been pretending not to notice, were now openly watching the exchange. The room seemed to close in on her, and the warmth of the restaurant suddenly felt suffocating. Without another word, Angela turned and left the restaurant, her head held high despite the tears pricking at the corners of her eyes. As she stepped out into the cool air, she resolved that this injustice would not go unchallenged. She knew she had to do something, not just for herself, but for anyone who had ever faced such blatant discrimination. The next day, Angela would return, and what she planned to do would leave the entire restaurant chain in shock. That night, Angela couldn't sleep. The incident at Sunshine Grill replayed in her mind, each detail as sharp as a knife. She tossed and turned, her thoughts racing. How could she let them get away with such blatant discrimination? Her determination grew stronger with each passing hour. By morning, Angela had formulated a plan. She knew that taking a stand against the injustice she faced required courage and a strategic approach. This wasn't just about her. It was about every person who had ever been denied their basic rights and dignity. Angela spent her morning reaching out to friends and community members who had experienced similar treatment or were passionate about fighting discrimination. She made phone calls, sent messages, and posted on social media, describing her experience and calling for support. The response was overwhelming. Her story resonated with many, and people began to rally around her cause. Later that afternoon, Angela made her way to a local community center where she met with a group of activists and supporters. Among them were local civil rights leaders, journalists, and concerned citizens. They listened intently as Angela recounted the previous day's events, their expressions shifting from shock to anger to solidarity. "We need to take a stand," Angela said, her voice steady and filled with conviction. "We can't let businesses think they can treat people this way and get away with it. We need to show them that our community will not tolerate discrimination." The group discussed various strategies, from peaceful protests to legal action. They decided that the first step would be a peaceful demonstration outside the restaurant, drawing attention to the issue and garnering public support. Angela's story would be shared widely, and they would invite local media to cover the event. They quickly set a date for the demonstration. 2 days later, Angela and her newfound allies worked tirelessly to organize the event, creating signs, drafting press releases, and spreading the word through social media and community networks. Angela felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. This was no longer just about a single incident. It was about fighting for justice and equality for all. As the day of the demonstration approached, Angela's nerves were on edge, but her resolve never wavered. She knew this was the right thing to do. On the morning of the protest, she stood in front of her mirror, looking at her reflection. Her eyes were tired but resolute. She was ready. With a deep breath, Angela headed to the Sunshine Grill, where she would take a stand against the injustice she had faced and demand change. The entire chain would soon be shocked by what she and her community were capable of when they united for a common cause. On the day of the demonstration, Angela arrived at the Sunshine Grill early. She wore a simple yet dignified outfit and carried a sign that read, "Equality and respect for all." As she approached the restaurant, she saw that dozens of supporters had already gathered, holding signs and chanting slogans. The sight filled her with a mix of pride and nervousness. The protesters held signs with messages like "No to discrimination," "Dignity for all," and "Boycott racist businesses." Angela took her place at the front of the crowd, her heart pounding but her resolve unshaken. She looked around at the faces of her supporters, people of all ages, races, and backgrounds, united by a common cause. The protest began peacefully. Chants of "What do we want?" "Justice," "When do we want it?" "Now," filled the air. Passers-by stopped to watch, some joining the crowd, others taking pictures or recording videos. The atmosphere was charged with energy and determination. Local news reporters and cameramen soon arrived, drawn by the growing crowd and the compelling story. Angela was interviewed by several journalists, each time recounting her experience with calm and poise. She spoke about the broader issue of discrimination and the need for businesses to treat all customers with respect and dignity. "People need to understand that this isn't just about one restaurant," Angela said to a reporter. "It's about standing up against a culture of discrimination and ensuring that everyone is treated equally, no matter their race or background." As the protest continued, more and more people joined in. Some brought food and water for the protesters, while others shared their own stories of discrimination and support for Angela's cause. The crowd swelled, and the chants grew louder. Inside the Sunshine Grill, the management watched with growing unease. The sight of so many people gathered outside their doors, peacefully demanding justice, was not something they had anticipated. They could see the determination in the faces of the protesters and knew that this was not a situation that would easily blow over. Angela's presence and the support of the community had created a powerful statement. It was clear that they were not just going to go away. The protest continued throughout the day, with Angela and her supporters standing firm, demanding change and an end to discriminatory practices. As the sun began to set, the crowd slowly began to disperse. Angela felt a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. They had made their point, but she knew this was just the beginning. The restaurant chain had been put on notice, and the next steps would be crucial in ensuring that real change occurred. With the protest over, Angela and her closest allies gathered to discuss their next moves. They knew they had the community's support, but they needed to keep the momentum going. The fight for justice and equality was far from over, but Angela was more determined than ever to see it through. The day after the protest, social media was buzzing with photos, videos, and news articles about the demonstration at Sunshine Grill. The hashtag #JusticeForAngela was trending, with thousands of people sharing their thoughts and support. The peaceful protest had struck a chord with many, and the story quickly gained traction beyond the local community. Angela woke up to find her phone flooded with messages. Friends, family, and even strangers had reached out to express their support. She felt overwhelmed but grateful for the outpouring of solidarity. As she sipped her morning coffee, she saw that major news outlets had picked up the story. Her heart raced with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Meanwhile, at the corporate headquarters of Sunshine Grill, the atmosphere was tense. The CEO, Robert Henderson, sat in a conference room with his executive team. The screen in front of them displayed news clips and social media posts about the protest. The public relations manager was fielding calls from concerned franchise owners and reporters. "How did this happen?" Robert demanded, his voice sharp with frustration. "This kind of negative publicity can ruin us." The regional manager responsible for the branch where Angela had been denied service looked visibly uncomfortable. "It seems there was a serious lapse in judgment by the staff," he said. "We need to address this immediately." The head of PR nodded. "We need to issue a public statement apologizing to Ms. Jackson and making it clear that Sunshine Grill does not tolerate discrimination in any form. We should also announce that we will be conducting an internal investigation and retraining all staff on our non-discrimination policies." Robert considered this for a moment. "We need more than just words," he said. "We need to show that we are taking this seriously and making real changes." As the meeting continued, the team brainstormed additional measures to repair the company's image. They discussed implementing new training programs, creating a diversity and inclusion task force, and reaching out to Angela directly to make amends. Later that day, Angela received an unexpected phone call. It was from a representative of Sunshine Grill's corporate headquarters. The representative, a woman named Laura, spoke with a calm and professional tone. "Ms. Jackson, my name is Laura Simmons, and I am calling on behalf of Sunshine Grill's corporate office," she began. "First, let me apologize on behalf of the entire company for the way you were treated at our restaurant. We are deeply sorry for the pain and distress this has caused you." Angela listened, her expression neutral. She appreciated the apology, but she knew actions spoke louder than words. "We are committed to making this right," Laura continued. "We would like to invite you to meet with our CEO, Robert Henderson, to discuss how we can address this issue and ensure it never happens again. We also want to hear any suggestions you may have on how we can improve our policies and training." Angela was taken aback. She hadn't expected such a direct response from the company's top leadership. After a moment's hesitation, she agreed to the meeting. As she hung up the phone, Angela felt a renewed sense of hope. This was an opportunity to make a real difference, not just for herself, but for others who might face similar discrimination. She knew it wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to take on the challenge. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. Angela and her closest allies gathered to discuss the upcoming meeting with Sunshine Grill's CEO. They outlined key points they wanted to address and brainstormed ideas for meaningful changes that the company could implement. When the day of the meeting arrived, Angela walked into Sunshine Grill's headquarters with her head held high. She was greeted by Laura, who escorted her to the conference room where Robert and other executives were waiting. The atmosphere was formal but respectful. "Ms. Jackson, thank you for coming," Robert said, standing to shake her hand. "I want to personally apologize for what happened and assure you that we are committed to making things right." Angela nodded, taking a seat at the conference table. "Thank you for reaching out," she replied. "I appreciate the apology, but I want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." As the meeting progressed, Angela spoke passionately about the need for systemic changes within the company. She emphasized the importance of comprehensive training on diversity and inclusion, better oversight of franchise operations, and creating channels for employees and customers to report discrimination without fear of retaliation. The executives listened attentively, taking notes and asking questions. By the end of the meeting, Angela felt cautiously optimistic. The company had agreed to several of her proposals and promised to keep her involved in the implementation process. Leaving the headquarters, Angela felt a sense of accomplishment. The protest had sparked a conversation, and now real change was on the horizon. She knew there was still much work to be done, but for the first time, she felt like she was making a tangible difference. A few days after Angela's meeting with the Sunshine Grill executives, the company released a formal statement to the public. The statement, signed by CEO Robert Henderson, was posted on the company's official website and social media channels. Sunshine Grill is deeply sorry for the incident that occurred at one of our locations involving Ms. Angela Jackson. We are committed to ensuring that no customer ever experiences discrimination at our establishments. We have taken immediate action to address this situation and prevent it from happening again. Our steps include: public apology. We apologize unreservedly to Ms. Jackson for the distress and inconvenience caused. Internal investigation. We are conducting a thorough investigation to understand how this incident occurred and to hold accountable those responsible. Comprehensive training. We are implementing mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all employees, starting immediately. Policy review. We are reviewing our policies and procedures to ensure they align with our commitment to equality and respect for all customers. Diversity Task Force. We are establishing a task force, which includes Ms. Jackson, to provide ongoing guidance and oversight on diversity and inclusion initiatives. Community engagement. We will actively engage with the communities we serve to rebuild trust and ensure that Sunshine Grill is a welcoming place for everyone. The statement concluded with a personal message from Robert Henderson. We are committed to learning from this incident and making Sunshine Grill a better company. We are grateful to Ms. Jackson for her courage in bringing this issue to light and for her willingness to work with us to improve. We are determined to make meaningful changes and to be a company that truly values and respects all individuals. The response from the public was overwhelmingly positive. Many appreciated the company's willingness to take responsibility and make concrete changes. Social media was flooded with comments praising Angela's bravery and the company's commitment to improvement. Angela herself was cautiously optimistic. She knew that promises were one thing, but actions were another. She remained committed to working with Sunshine Grill to ensure that the changes they promised were implemented effectively. As part of the Diversity Task Force, Angela attended regular meetings with Sunshine Grill executives and other members of the community. These meetings were focused on developing and refining the training programs, setting up systems for monitoring and reporting discrimination, and creating initiatives to foster a more inclusive environment within the company. Angela found herself growing into her role as an advocate and advisor. She used her experiences and insights to help shape the company's policies and practices. She also took the opportunity to learn more about corporate structures and the complexities of implementing change in a large organization. During one of the meetings, Robert Henderson approached Angela during a break. "I wanted to thank you again for your willingness to work with us," he said sincerely. "Your input has been invaluable." Angela nodded, appreciating the sentiment. "I just want to make sure that what happened to me doesn't happen to anyone else," she replied. "It's important that we get this right." Robert agreed. "We're committed to making that happen. We've already seen positive changes within the company, and that's largely thanks to your efforts." Over the following months, the impact of the new initiatives became evident. Employees reported feeling more supported and better educated about issues of diversity and inclusion. Customers also noticed a more welcoming atmosphere at Sunshine Grill locations. Angela's involvement continued to be a driving force behind these positive changes. Angela felt a growing sense of fulfillment from her work. What had started as a deeply painful experience had turned into an opportunity to create meaningful change. She found herself not only advocating for justice, but also inspiring others to stand up and make a difference. As Sunshine Grill began to rebuild its reputation, Angela's story remained a powerful reminder of the importance of standing up against discrimination. The company's journey towards inclusivity became a model for other businesses, demonstrating that it was possible to turn a negative incident into a catalyst for positive change. Angela knew that the work was far from over, but she was encouraged by the progress they had made. She continued to push for further improvements, knowing that every step they took brought them closer to a future where everyone was treated with respect and dignity. As the changes at Sunshine Grill began to take effect, Angela's story gained even more attention within the community and beyond. Local newspapers, television stations, and even national media outlets covered her journey from being denied service to becoming a key player in transforming a major restaurant chain. Angela received an outpouring of support from individuals and organizations dedicated to fighting discrimination and promoting equality. Community leaders, civil rights activists, and everyday people reached out to her, expressing their solidarity and admiration for her bravery. One day, Angela received an invitation to speak at a community forum on racial equality and social justice. The event, organized by a local advocacy group, was set to be attended by prominent figures in the fight for civil rights. Angela felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she prepared for her speech. She knew this was an important opportunity to share her story and inspire others to take action. On the day of the forum, Angela stood backstage, listening to the hum of the audience. The event was held in a large auditorium, filled to capacity with people eager to hear from the speakers. Angela took a deep breath, steeling herself for the moment she would walk onto the stage. As she was introduced, Angela stepped forward, the applause and cheers from the audience providing a boost of confidence. She began her speech by recounting the incident at Sunshine Grill, the feelings of humiliation and anger she had experienced, and the determination that had driven her to seek justice. "As painful as that day was," Angela said, her voice steady and strong, "it was also the beginning of something powerful. It was a catalyst for change, not just for me, but for so many others who have faced similar injustices." She spoke about the changes Sunshine Grill had implemented, the establishment of the Diversity Task Force, and her ongoing work to ensure that the company upheld its commitments. She emphasized the importance of accountability, not only for businesses but for individuals and communities. "We all have a role to play in creating a more just and equitable society," Angela continued. "It's not enough to simply acknowledge that discrimination exists. We must take action to dismantle it, to challenge it wherever we see it, and to support those who are fighting for their rights." Angela's speech resonated deeply with the audience. Many were moved to tears by her powerful words and her unwavering commitment to justice. After her speech, She was approached by numerous people who wanted to thank her, share their own experiences, and discuss ways to collaborate on future initiatives. Among those who approached her was Dr. Lisa Mitchell, a well-known civil rights advocate and professor of sociology. "Your story is incredibly inspiring, Angela," Dr. Mitchell said. "I'd like to invite you to join a panel I'm organizing at the upcoming National Conference on Civil Rights. Your perspective would be invaluable." Angela felt a surge of gratitude and excitement. She accepted the invitation, recognizing it as another opportunity to amplify her voice and advocate for change on a larger scale. In the weeks that followed, Angela continued to engage with the community, participating in workshops, forums, and meetings with local leaders. She became a sought-after speaker, her story serving as a beacon of hope and a call to action for many. Angela's increased visibility also brought new challenges. She faced criticism and backlash from those who opposed her efforts, including a few former Sunshine Grill customers who resented the changes being made. Angela remained undeterred, focusing on the positive impact her work was having and the support she continued to receive from allies and advocates. One evening, Angela attended a town hall meeting focused on addressing racial disparities in local businesses. The room was packed with community members, business owners, and local officials. As Angela listened to the discussions, she felt a deep sense of connection and purpose. She was part of a larger movement, one that was pushing for systemic change and striving to create a better future for everyone. When it was her turn to speak, Angela stood up and addressed the room with confidence and conviction. She shared her story once again, but this time she also highlighted the progress that had been made and the work that still needed to be done. "We have come a long way," Angela said, "but our journey is far from over. We must continue to hold ourselves and our institutions accountable. We must support each other and stand together in the face of adversity. And most importantly, we must never lose sight of our shared humanity." The room erupted in applause, the energy palpable. Angela looked out at the faces in the crowd, feeling a renewed sense of hope and determination. She knew that the road ahead would be challenging, but she also knew that she was not alone. As Angela left the town hall meeting that night, she felt a sense of fulfillment and resolve. She was committed to continuing her advocacy, to pushing for meaningful change, and to standing up for those who could not stand up for themselves. The future was uncertain, but Angela was ready to face it head-on, with courage, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to justice. The changes initiated by Angela's advocacy began to ripple through Sunshine Grill, leading to significant transformations in the company culture and operations. The creation of the Diversity Task Force was just the beginning. As the task force delved into their work, they uncovered numerous areas where the company could improve and make a lasting impact. Sunshine Grill implemented comprehensive diversity training programs for all employees, focusing on unconscious bias, cultural sensitivity, and inclusive practices. These sessions were mandatory and designed to foster a more welcoming and respectful environment for both staff and customers. The goal was to ensure that every individual, regardless of their background, felt valued and respected. The restaurant chain also began revising its hiring practices to promote a more diverse and inclusive workforce. They partnered with local organizations that supported marginalized communities, offering internships and employment opportunities to individuals who had historically been overlooked. These efforts not only enriched the company with a variety of perspectives, but also strengthened its ties with the community. Additionally, Sunshine Grill introduced a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination and harassment. Any reports of such behavior were to be thoroughly investigated, with appropriate actions taken against those found responsible. This policy was communicated clearly to all employees and customers, reinforcing the company's commitment to creating a safe and inclusive space. The menu itself saw changes, too. Sunshine Grill began incorporating more culturally diverse dishes, celebrating the rich culinary traditions of various communities. These new offerings were met with enthusiasm by customers, who appreciated the restaurant's efforts to be more inclusive and representative of different cultures. Publicly, Sunshine Grill made a commitment to support social justice initiatives. They began sponsoring community events, funding scholarships for underprivileged students, and donating to organizations that worked towards racial equality and justice. These actions were not mere public relations stunts, but genuine efforts to give back and make a positive impact. The results of these changes were soon evident. Employee morale improved significantly, as staff felt more appreciated and valued in their roles. Customer feedback also reflected a positive shift, with many praising the restaurant for its inclusivity and welcoming atmosphere. The initial backlash from some quarters gradually subsided, replaced by widespread support and admiration. Financially, Sunshine Grill experienced a boost. The positive media coverage and community support translated into increased patronage. More people visited the restaurants, drawn by the compelling story of transformation and the promise of a more inclusive dining experience. The company's commitment to social responsibility resonated with a growing number of consumers who prioritized ethical business practices. Angela's involvement with the company continued, but in a different capacity. She was invited to join the board of advisors, providing ongoing input and guidance on diversity and inclusion initiatives. Her role was to ensure that the progress made was sustained and that the company remained true to its commitments. Angela accepted the position, recognizing it as a platform to continue her advocacy work on a broader scale. One day, as Angela walked into a Sunshine Grill location, she was greeted by the sight of a bustling restaurant filled with diverse customers and staff. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the tense and unwelcoming environment she had experienced months earlier. Angela felt a deep sense of pride and accomplishment, knowing that her actions had contributed to this positive change. As she sat down at a table, the manager approached her with a smile. "Angela, it's so good to see you," he said. "I want to personally thank you for everything you've done. This place is so much better because of your efforts." Angela smiled back, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "Thank you," she replied. "It's incredible to see the difference. But remember, this is just the beginning. We have to keep pushing for more." The manager nodded, understanding the importance of ongoing commitment. "Absolutely. We're in this for the long haul." Angela enjoyed her meal, reflecting on the journey that had brought her here. The path had been challenging, filled with obstacles and moments of doubt. But the results were undeniable. Sunshine Grill had not only changed, but had set an example for other businesses to follow. As she left the restaurant, Angela felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew there was still much work to be done, both within Sunshine Grill and beyond. But she was ready, armed with the knowledge that one person's actions could indeed make a profound difference. Angela's story and the sweeping changes at Sunshine Grill caught the attention of local and national media. News outlets, always on the lookout for compelling human interest stories, quickly picked up on the narrative of a poor black woman standing up against injustice and effecting positive change in a major restaurant chain. Reporters flocked to interview Angela, the CEO of Sunshine Grill, and other key figures involved in the transformation. Angela found herself in the spotlight, her once ordinary life turned upside down by media frenzy. At first, the attention was overwhelming. She had never sought the limelight. Her goal had been to address a wrong and make a difference in her community. Yet, as she sat in front of cameras and microphones, she realized the power of her story to inspire others and bring about further change. Television news segments featured Angela recounting her experience at the Sunshine Grill, describing the discrimination she faced and her decision to take action. Her calm demeanor and articulate explanations resonated with viewers, who saw in her a symbol of resilience and determination. Angela's story was particularly poignant against the backdrop of ongoing national conversations about racial injustice and inequality. Print and online articles delved deeper into Angela's background, painting a picture of a woman who had faced numerous challenges but remained steadfast in her principles. They highlighted her work with local community organizations, her involvement in advocating for social justice, and her dedication to making a difference. The narrative of a single individual taking on a corporate giant and succeeding captured the public's imagination. Social media platforms buzzed with discussions about Angela's actions and the subsequent changes at Sunshine Grill. Hashtags like #JusticeForAngela and #Change at Sunshine Grill trended as people from all walks of life shared their thoughts and experiences related to discrimination and the importance of standing up for what is right. Angela received an outpouring of support from people all over the country, many of whom shared their own stories of facing injustice. News programs invited Angela to appear as a guest, and she found herself on morning shows, talk shows, and news panels. Each appearance provided her with an opportunity to speak about the importance of diversity, inclusion, and the need for systemic change. She emphasized that her story was not just about one restaurant or one incident, but about a broader movement toward equality and justice. The CEO of Sunshine Grill also made media appearances, discussing the company's response to the incident and their ongoing commitment to diversity and inclusion. He praised Angela for her bravery and acknowledged the lessons the company had learned from the situation. His willingness to engage with the media and openly discuss the company's shortcomings further bolstered public perception of Sunshine Grill as a business genuinely committed to positive change. Angela's media presence had a ripple effect. Other companies began to take note of the positive attention Sunshine Grill was receiving for its proactive steps toward addressing discrimination. Business leaders reached out to Angela for advice on implementing similar changes within their own organizations. She found herself in a new role as a consultant and advocate, helping other businesses understand the importance of fostering inclusive environments. As Angela's story continued to circulate, it sparked important conversations within communities across the nation. People discussed their own experiences with discrimination, both as victims and witnesses, and the ways in which they could contribute to creating more inclusive and equitable spaces. Schools, community centers, and workplaces organized forums and workshops to address these issues, inspired by Angela's example. One particularly memorable moment came when Angela was invited to speak at a national conference on social justice and corporate responsibility. Standing on stage before a large audience, she shared her journey and the impact of her actions. Her speech was met with a standing ovation, and she left the stage feeling a profound sense of accomplishment and hope. The media attention not only elevated Angela's profile, but also amplified the message of her cause. Her story served as a powerful reminder that ordinary people have the power to effect extraordinary change. Angela's courage and determination inspired countless individuals to stand up against injustice, and the ripple effects of her actions continued to spread far and wide. As the media coverage eventually began to wind down, Angela reflected on the journey she had undertaken. She knew that the fight for equality and justice was far from over, but she felt a renewed sense of purpose and determination. With the support of her community and the broader public, she was ready to continue advocating for change and making a difference in the lives of others. As Angela's story continued to make headlines, the community rallied around her in unprecedented ways. People from all walks of life came forward to show their support, turning Angela's personal victory into a collective movement for change. Local leaders, activists, and everyday citizens united in a shared commitment to addressing racial injustice and fostering inclusivity. The first signs of community support appeared in Angela's own neighborhood. Friends and neighbors organized a gathering at a local park to celebrate her bravery and the changes she had inspired at Sunshine Grill. Banners reading, "We stand with Angela," and "Justice for all," adorned the park, and the atmosphere was one of solidarity and hope. Angela was deeply moved by the turnout and the heartfelt messages of encouragement she received. Churches, community centers, and local organizations began to hold events and forums to discuss issues of discrimination and how to combat them. Angela was often invited to speak at these gatherings, where she shared her experiences and emphasized the importance of standing up against injustice. Her words resonated deeply with audiences, inspiring many to become more actively involved in advocating for equality. The local government also took notice. City officials reached out to Angela, expressing their support and discussing ways to improve policies and practices within the community to prevent discrimination. They formed a task force dedicated to addressing issues of racial bias in local businesses and institutions, inviting Angela to serve as an advisor. Her insights and experiences were invaluable in shaping initiatives aimed at fostering a more inclusive environment. Angela's impact extended beyond her immediate community. Nearby towns and cities heard about her story and the changes at Sunshine Grill, leading to a ripple effect of similar actions. Other individuals who had faced discrimination began to come forward, inspired by Angela's courage. Local media outlets continued to highlight these stories, further raising awareness and galvanizing support for broader social change. Support came not only from those who had faced discrimination, but also from allies who recognized the importance of standing in solidarity. Local businesses displayed signs in their windows stating, "We support Angela," and "Equality for all." These businesses pledged to uphold the principles of fairness and respect, committing to diversity training for their employees and actively working to create inclusive spaces. Educational institutions played a significant role as well. Schools invited Angela to speak to students about her experiences, using her story as a teaching moment to discuss the importance of empathy, courage, and standing up for what is right. Teachers incorporated lessons on civil rights and social justice into their curricula, encouraging students to engage in meaningful conversations about equality and inclusivity. The support Angela received was not just emotional, but also practical. Community members organized fundraising events to help Angela with any legal costs and to support initiatives she was passionate about. Bake sales, charity runs, and benefit concerts were held, with proceeds going towards local organizations that fought against discrimination and supported marginalized communities. Angela's house became a hub of activity, with people dropping by to offer their help and share their stories. Volunteers helped her organize and distribute the funds raised, ensuring they went to causes that would make the most impact. Angela was deeply touched by the outpouring of support and the sense of community that had formed around her. The support Angela received from the community also had a healing effect. The trauma of her initial experience at Sunshine Grill was alleviated by the overwhelming kindness and solidarity shown by those around her. She felt a renewed sense of belonging and purpose, knowing that her actions had sparked a movement much larger than herself. One particularly touching moment came when a group of children from a local elementary school presented Angela with handmade cards and drawings. Each card contained messages of thanks and admiration, and the drawings depicted scenes of inclusivity and friendship. Angela was moved to tears, realizing the profound impact her actions had on even the youngest members of her community. Angela's story continued to inspire acts of kindness and solidarity. People who had never met her felt connected to her journey and motivated to make a difference in their own ways. The community's support was a testament to the power of collective action and the profound changes that can occur when individuals come together for a common cause. As the months went by, the momentum of the movement Angela had sparked showed no signs of slowing down. The community remained committed to the principles of equality and justice, continuously finding new ways to support one another and address issues of discrimination. Angela, with her unyielding spirit and newfound platform, continued to lead the charge, grateful for the unwavering support of the community that had become her family. With the overwhelming support of the community behind her, Angela felt empowered to take her fight for justice to the next level. Encouraged by friends, activists, and legal advisors, she decided to pursue legal action against Sunshine Grill. The goal was not only to seek redress for the discrimination she faced, but also to set a precedent that would deter other businesses from engaging in similar behavior. Angela's first step was to find a lawyer who specialized in civil rights cases. She was introduced to Michael Hayes, a prominent attorney known for his passionate advocacy for social justice. Michael had a strong track record of fighting for marginalized communities, and he immediately took a keen interest in Angela's case. During their initial consultation, Michael listened intently as Angela recounted her experience at Sunshine Grill and the subsequent fallout. "We have a strong case here, Angela," Michael said, his voice filled with determination. "What happened to you was a clear violation of your civil rights. We can argue that the restaurant's actions were discriminatory and caused you emotional distress. This isn't just about you. It's about ensuring this doesn't happen to anyone else." With Michael's guidance, Angela filed a lawsuit against Sunshine Grill for racial discrimination, seeking both compensatory and punitive damages. The lawsuit alleged that the restaurant had violated federal and state anti-discrimination laws by refusing to serve Angela based on her race. It also highlighted the emotional and psychological toll the incident had taken on her. News of the lawsuit spread quickly, generating a new wave of media attention. Reporters from local and national outlets reached out to Angela for interviews, eager to cover the story of a woman standing up against racial injustice. Angela, now more confident and resolute, used these opportunities to speak about her experience and the broader issues of discrimination and inequality. "I'm not doing this just for myself," Angela said during one interview. "I'm doing this for everyone who has ever been treated unfairly because of the color of their skin. No one should have to go through what I did. It's time for a change." Sunshine Grill's management, initially dismissive of Angela's claims, soon realized the gravity of the situation. The negative publicity had significantly impacted their reputation, leading to a noticeable decline in business. Under pressure, the restaurant's legal team reached out to Angela's attorney to discuss the possibility of a settlement. However, Angela was adamant that justice must be served and insisted on taking the case to court. The trial was set to take place in the county courthouse, and as the date approached, Angela prepared herself for what would be a grueling but necessary battle. Michael and his team worked tirelessly to gather evidence, including witness testimonies, security footage from the restaurant, and records of similar complaints against Sunshine Grill. Angela also prepared to testify, determined to share her story and ensure her voice was heard. On the day of the trial, the courthouse was filled with supporters, activists, and members of the media. The atmosphere was tense, but Angela felt a sense of calm wash over her as she took her seat beside Michael. She knew she was not alone in this fight. The community was with her every step of the way. During the proceedings, Michael presented a compelling case, meticulously outlining the discriminatory practices of Sunshine Grill and the impact they had on Angela. He called witnesses who corroborated Angela's account and highlighted the restaurant's pattern of biased behavior. Angela herself took the stand, speaking with poise and conviction about her experience and the emotional scars it left behind. The defense tried to downplay the incident, arguing that it was a misunderstanding and that Sunshine Grill did not discriminate against Angela. However, their attempts were undermined by the overwhelming evidence presented by Michael and his team. The testimonies of other individuals who had faced similar treatment at the restaurant further weakened the defense's position. After several days of intense deliberations, the jury reached a unanimous verdict. They found Sunshine Grill guilty of racial discrimination and awarded Angela both compensatory and punitive damages. The judge, in his closing remarks, emphasized the importance of upholding civil rights and condemned the restaurant's actions as a blatant violation of those rights. The courtroom erupted in applause as the verdict was announced. Angela felt tears of relief and triumph stream down her face. She had not only won justice for herself, but had also struck a blow against systemic racism. The legal victory sent a powerful message to businesses everywhere that discrimination would not be tolerated. Outside the courthouse, Angela was met with cheers and congratulations from the crowd. Reporters clamored for her attention, eager to capture her reaction to the verdict. Angela took a moment to collect herself before addressing the gathered crowd and media. "This victory is not just mine," she said, her voice steady and strong. "It's a victory for everyone who has ever been marginalized or discriminated against. We must continue to fight for equality and justice, and together, we can create a better, fairer world." As Angela looked around at the faces of those who had supported her throughout her journey, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. The legal battle was over, but her mission to promote equality and justice was just beginning. Buoyed by her victory, Angela vowed to continue advocating for change, using her platform to uplift others and inspire action against injustice. Angela's victory in court quickly made headlines across the country, turning her into a symbol of resilience and justice. News outlets, from local newspapers to national television networks, covered her story, highlighting her courage and the significance of her legal triumph. Angela found herself in the national spotlight, receiving messages of support from people all over the country who were inspired by her stand against discrimination. Despite the whirlwind of media attention, Angela remained grounded. She knew that her case was just one example of a much larger problem. Determined to use her newfound platform to advocate for change, she began to engage with civil rights organizations and community groups. She was invited to speak at events, share her story on talk shows, and participate in panels discussing racial inequality and social justice. One of the first organizations to reach out to Angela was the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. Impressed by her determination and the impact of her case, they invited her to speak at their annual convention. Standing before a large audience, Angela recounted her experience at Sunshine Grill and the journey to justice, emphasizing the importance of standing up against discrimination. As a community, we must hold businesses and individuals accountable for their actions, Angela said, her voice resonating with conviction. We must ensure that no one is denied their dignity and rights because of the color of their skin. Together, we can make a difference. Angela's speech received a standing ovation, and she was inundated with requests to speak at other events and collaborate with various advocacy groups. She accepted every opportunity, driven by a passion to create lasting change. She participated in marches, joined campaigns for policy reforms, and worked with legal experts to push for stronger anti-discrimination laws. In addition to her advocacy work, Angela started a foundation dedicated to supporting victims of discrimination and promoting racial equality. The foundation provided legal assistance, educational resources, and community support to those affected by racial injustice. Angela's efforts were fueled by her desire to ensure that no one else would have to endure what she had gone through. As Angela's influence grew, so did the recognition of her efforts. She was featured in major publications such as Time magazine and the New York Times, and received numerous awards for her advocacy, including the prestigious Freedom Award from the National Civil Rights Museum. Each accolade was a reminder of the impact she was making, but Angela remained focused on the work that still needed to be done. One of the most memorable moments for Angela was being invited to the White House to meet with the president. During their meeting, they discussed the importance of addressing systemic racism and the need for comprehensive civil rights legislation. Angela shared her insights and experiences, highlighting the areas where she believed change was most urgently needed. "Your story is a powerful reminder of the work we still have ahead of us," the president said. "Thank you for your courage and for being a voice for so many who have been silenced." Angela's visit to the White House marked a significant milestone in her journey, but she knew that true change required sustained effort and collaboration. She continued to work tirelessly, building alliances with other activists and organizations, and pushing for policy changes at both the local and national levels. Throughout her advocacy work, Angela never forgot the community that had supported her from the beginning. She remained actively involved in local initiatives, working closely with community leaders to address issues of discrimination and inequality. She organized town hall meetings, workshops, and support groups, ensuring that everyone had a voice and access to resources. Angela's relentless dedication inspired countless individuals to join the fight for justice. Her foundation grew rapidly, attracting volunteers and donations from across the country. The stories of those she helped served as a testament to the impact of her work and the importance of standing up against injustice. As Angela reflected on her journey, she realized that her experience at Sunshine Grill had transformed her life in ways she could never have imagined. What had started as a painful and humiliating incident had blossomed into a powerful movement for change. Angela had turned her struggle into a source of strength, using her voice to advocate for a better, more equitable world. The national recognition Angela received was a testament to her resilience and the collective power of a community united against discrimination. Her story became a beacon of hope, demonstrating that even in the face of adversity, one person could make a profound difference. Angela's story and advocacy efforts led to significant changes in corporate policies across the nation. Many businesses, not wanting to be associated with discrimination or face the same backlash as Sunshine Grill, started re-evaluating their practices. They introduced comprehensive anti-discrimination training for their staff, implemented stricter policies to ensure inclusivity, and established channels for reporting and addressing grievances related to racial bias. The Sunshine Grill chain, in particular, underwent a complete overhaul. The CEO issued a public apology, acknowledging the company's failings and promising substantial reforms. They hired diversity and inclusion experts to conduct training sessions for all employees, from top executives to entry-level staff. They also established a scholarship fund in Angela's name to support young African Americans pursuing careers in hospitality and business. Angela's foundation received substantial donations from businesses eager to demonstrate their commitment to change. These funds were used to expand the foundation's reach, allowing them to offer more resources and support to those facing discrimination. They also began working with corporations to develop better hiring practices and promote diversity at all levels of employment. One of Angela's most significant achievements was her role in influencing legislative changes. Her advocacy contributed to the introduction of new laws aimed at strengthening protections against racial discrimination in public accommodations and workplaces. These laws included harsher penalties for businesses found guilty of discriminatory practices and mandated regular training on diversity and inclusion for all employees. Angela continued to travel the country, sharing her story and advocating for change. She spoke at universities, inspiring students to take up the cause of social justice. She met with policymakers, urging them to enact and enforce laws that would ensure equal treatment for all. Her tireless work and the tangible changes she helped bring about were a testament to the power of one person's determination to make a difference. As the years passed, Angela's influence only grew. She became a respected voice in the fight against racial injustice, and her foundation became a leading organization in the field. They partnered with other civil rights groups to launch national campaigns, pushing for systemic changes that would address the root causes of discrimination and inequality. Angela also focused on mentoring the next generation of activists. She organized leadership programs and workshops, equipping young people with the skills and knowledge they needed to advocate for change in their communities. She believed that empowering others to continue the fight was the best way to ensure lasting progress. Despite her national and international recognition, Angela never lost sight of the community that had supported her from the beginning. She remained actively involved in local initiatives, ensuring that the changes she fought for at a national level also took root in her hometown. She continued to hold regular meetings with community leaders, listening to their concerns and working together to find solutions. Angela's journey was not without its challenges. She faced criticism and resistance from those who were uncomfortable with change. She encountered individuals and organizations that tried to undermine her efforts. But through it all, she remained steadfast, driven by a deep sense of justice and a commitment to making the world a better place. Her story was a reminder that change is possible, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable obstacles. It showed that with courage, determination, and the support of a united community, one person can spark a movement that transforms society. In the years that followed, Angela's name became synonymous with resilience and justice. She was honored with numerous awards, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom, recognizing her contributions to the fight against racial discrimination. Her foundation continued to grow, expanding its reach and impact, and her legacy inspired countless individuals to take a stand against injustice in their own lives. Angela's story was a powerful testament to the strength of the human spirit and the importance of standing up for what is right. It reminded us that even in the face of adversity, we have the power to create positive change. And as long as there are people like Angela willing to fight for justice, there is hope for a better, more equitable future for all.